How's it going, Beyond the Benches? It's your man, JT, coming at you on this Monday here. And it is now time to break down the entirety of the Dolphins 2019 NFL draft class, the first of the latest rebuild under Brian Flores and Jim Caldwell and Chad O'Shea and Patrick Graham, and of course, headman Chris Grier and all those guys. And as they try to rebuild this team, there's a lot of destruction in the early part of the offseason with guys like Ryan Tannehill and Amendola, Jawan James, Cameron Wake, a lot of other guys making their departures or rumored to be going, accumulating a lot of draft picks in that 2020 class, and there was a lot of attention there. Was Miami already kind of focused on that draft class a little bit too much, and particularly the quarterbacks that were going to be available? What were they going to do in 2019? Were they going to sit out quarterback altogether? Which positions would they try to address, and goals would they try to address? Because obviously this team had done, so much rebuilding in the offseason, they weren't going to address each and every single need in this one draft. Just wasn't going to happen, especially with the amount of money in draft pick in 2020. That's really going to be your golden offseason, right? And it makes me think of the 2013 offseason, right? It's going to be very similar to that. In 2012, you selected a young quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, and you had been rebuilding through that 2012 offseason. And Jeff Ireland famously said before the 2013 offseason, I got picked and I got money. Problem is, he pretty much wasted them because he traded up to go get Deion Jordan, third overall in the draft. Complete flop, couldn't get on the field because of a lot of drug issues. And then he spent, a lot of the money on two linebackers, Daniel Ellaby, and another guy that I'm trying to think of right now, and that just goes to show you their impact on the field. And then in 2014 and 2015, you had guys like Devontae Parker and then Ndamukong Suh. Not bad, but never really reached, Devontae Parker never reached his full potential, and Suh ultimately was just paid way, way, way too much. So the Dolphins had this similar opportunity before. This isn't uncharted territory, although I think they're doing it slightly better and with a few more picks than that 2013 offseason for sure. But, picks and money are great. You have to be able to use them. And with that all said, that's all previewing 2020. Let's go ahead and talk about what happened in 2019. Now, of course, Christian Wilkins, I've made a couple videos on this already. I think this is a good selection in the first round. It was a good one. Not great, not terrible, particularly once they ended up doing something at the quarterback position later on, which was my initial concern. But even then, when I look at Christian Wilkins, I just don't see a great player. And I don't think that is an insult, but it's just my personal opinion. I think he will come in here and play that kind of 3-4 edge position, occasionally hitting the defensive tackle position as well. And I think he'll do a very good job. Above average stats. He'll be a fun player. He seems like a really good personality that is. Energetic, loved the camera during draft weekend for sure. And I think that's what you're going to get out of Christian Wilkins. Now, in the second round, Dolphins did not make an actual selection, but they did trade down initially, giving up their fourth rounder and their second rounder for a 2020 second round pick. So yet another draft pick. And you talk about the Dolphins having their first round pick, their own second round pick, the Saints second round pick, their own third round pick, a compensatory third round pick, their own fourth round pick, and the Tennessee Titans fourth round pick because of that Tannehill trade. And they also should have a couple of extra fifth, sixth, and sevenths as well sprinkled in there for probably about a grand total of 12 to maybe 13 draft picks. And we're still a year away, so the Dolphins could easily make another trade, maybe ship out, hate to throw out names like this, but Kenny Stills and TJ McDonald. Those are guys that maybe get you a fourth or a fifth round pick back as you continue to stockpile, if you don't think they're part of your long-term future. But then with their new second round pick given to them by the Saints, they ended up trading that to the Arizona Cardinals and a future fifth for Josh Rosen, the quarterback. The Rosen one now in Miami. Him and Fitzpatrick are going to battle out. Brian Flores said that those two will compete for the starting job. And I think, honestly, there's, if it's at all close, unless Fitzpatrick is just clearly better, unless Fitzpatrick just comes in and he's clearly got a better understanding of the offense and he's clearly better. If it's close, you have to go Rosen. Because those 2020 quarterbacks, even though I've kind of been a little bit of a party pooper as far as looking too far ahead, they are coming and they are an impressive bunch. And so you need to know, do we need to draft a Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama, a Jake Fromm from Georgia, Jacob Eason or Justin Herbert, one of these huge name quarterbacks, maybe even generational talents? Do we need to go out and get them? And the way you know that is by giving Josh Rosen as many opportunities to play and watch him as you can. So again, unless he's just really behind Fitzpatrick, which would probably tell you a little bit there, I think you got to get him on the field and got to get him playing. I'd love for him to be the week 1 starter, honestly. And, you have Fitzpatrick who can be there if you need him or be a really good backup. I like his contract, so I like what the Dolphins did there. In the 3rd round, they took Michael Dieter, the Wisconsin guard. I mentioned that a little bit too. I think he is your day 1 left guard, and I think he'll be a pretty good guard. Again, I don't think the Dolphins got an elite player here, but a pretty good one. Then in the 4th round, no selection. In the 5th round, they took Andrew Van Ginkel, another Wisconsin Badger. I think he is about a 3-4 outside linebacker, can play that edge. He had about 6 sacks and 60 tackles his final year, so some really good numbers there. Coming off the edge, getting the quarterback. He also can drop back into coverage, play sideline to sideline. You talk about the Dolphins kind of running similar to what the Patriots did last year because they had Brian Flores, and he's obviously going to bring over a lot of those same qualities on defense, especially with Patrick Graham. I think they kind of see Van Ginkel as a little bit of a Kyle Van Noy role from the Dolphins. Of course, those 3-syllable names as well. But no, just somebody who is very versatile, can get all over the field, including get to the quarterback. You talk about the 6th round, they took Isaiah Prince. I like this guy. Some people, I think, are really hyping him up like he's going to be a future right tackle for this team. Maybe. I don't think that's the expectation when he got drafted. I think it is a long-term good backup that continues to add depth. So this team really needed, after the current state of the offensive line before the draft, they probably needed 3 starters and 2 good backups, right? And the way it looked is you had 2 years to get that. You had this draft, you had your money next year, and all your draft picks next year to get basically 5 guys. I think they got a good starter, Michael Dieter, for a long term, and I think they got a good backup. So they still need a couple more starters, maybe another good backup, but I thought it was a good start. And then in the 7th round, they took 2 running backs, that is, including a fullback, Cameron Cox, and Myles Gaskins. I love the pick of Myles Gaskins, one of my favorite players in the draft, killed it at Washington. I thought this was an underrated player for sure. And then you talk about Cameron Cox of Auburn, a true old-school fullback. Just put your head down. He can block people, he can run around, and he can just run some people over, and that's going to be fun to see. And if you're wondering why they take a fullback, well, again, Chad O'Shea, in his offense last year, 36% of their plays involved a fullback. So it is a position that the Dolphins are going to occasionally use. And not only that, when you look at Cameron Cox, he actually played a few snaps at tight end. So again, a guy that you can move around. He's going to be rough, he's going to be physical, and he's going to be versatile. I thought the Dolphins, what they accomplished in this draft more than anything was establish that running game. You had 2 offensive linemen to your dreadful offensive line, so that's going to help out a little bit. And now with 2 more running backs, you have Kenyon Drake, Ballage, Gaskins, Cameron Cox. You can really put running backs all over the field, and guys that are versatile, guys who can catch the ball, who can run with it, who can block. So I really like that. And you gave yourself a really good chance at the quarterback position in the future. Because if Josh Rosen doesn't work out, you have, the 2020 class, maybe even Trevor Lawrence in 2021, but that's way looking ahead. And you didn't, by any means take yourself out of those. I know some people got mad because they're like, oh, no, now we're not going to get who. No, you still can. Listen, if you're not impressed with Josh Rosen in a year, that's going to be 2 years into his career. You can draft another guy. Nothing's stopping you. And you also have the draft picks to trade up if there's a specific player that you want. But for now, you have a young quarterback to get behind. I loved this draft class, honestly, because I felt like it has a purpose and a goal, right? I think the Dolphins had 2 goals, which was start a 3-4 defense and build a running game. They did that. And build towards the 2020 draft class. They did that. So to me, I felt like Dolphins drafts in the past were just kind of like, well, we'll get some players and hope it works out. Every single player has a role already that they're going to be going for, and they also, again, continued that plan towards 2020. Now, will the plan work? I don't know. Like I mentioned earlier, plans are great. You have to execute them. But I appreciate kind of that sense of direction. It's not something that Dolphin fans have gotten a lot of in recent years. It's been a lot of just, we'll do this and try. So I appreciate the game planning and the thinking going involved by Chris Greer and others. And now, obviously, we'll have to see how these players turn out and what the Dolphins do moving forward. But it got me excited for the season, and that's what I want out of this draft. Any draft, if you can get me excited for the season, I think you did a good job. But let me know what you guys think. Which players do you think we should have taken? What are your favorite players that we did take? And I will see y'all next time.